Hello everyone, my name is Ragnon Mindbane, and I've got a Shatter build for you today. For my gear, I'm using full Berserker's armor with Runes of the Traveler. You could also use superior runes of the Ogre or Scholar or Strength. Really, just an offensive rune set is good. I just like Traveler because I'm kind of addicted to the 25% movement speed. Especially when roaming. For my weapons, I'm using Greatsword and then Sword Focus. For Greatsword, I'm using Superior Sigil of Battle and then a Superior Sigil of Bloodlust. The Battle works pretty well because you will be swapping weapons pretty frequently. And then the Bloodlust works really well to ramp up my power while I'm roaming. For my offhand set, I'm using a Sword main hand with Superior Sigil of Battle, and then Offhand Focus with Superior Sigil of Strength. Really aiming for getting quite a bit of might in this build. You could also, I would recommend running Sword main hand, but your offhand weapon is, it's up to preference really. I like the Focus because it adds some crowd control with the Curtain. And then the Warden has a lot of other uses. Plus, and it's summoned within melee range, so it really works well for the burst. You could also run Torch for a little bit more survivability with the invisibility, number 4. Pistol also works, but because the Phantasm is summoned at range, it's kind of difficult to get a really good shatter off. Sword offhand is pretty good though, because the Phantasm gets within melee range pretty quickly, and then the block adds quite a bit of survivability. And there's a bit of synergy if you choose the sword trait in your precision line dueling. For my trinkets, I'm using all Ascended Berserker's gear, except for my back piece. It's PTV, which if I could, I'd have that Berserkers, maybe in the future. Let's see, let's look at traits. I'm running the standard 44006 Shatter. Now, a lot of these traits are up to preference. Some of them you definitely need if you want a max damage Shatter on your Mind Rack, but some are just up to preference. I'm running 1 for Mind Rack deals more damage. This one's pretty necessary. I grabbed Greatsword training just for the increased recharge rate for the Greatsword skills. You can also run Shatter skills remove a boon on hit. This is really good, especially against Guardians and other classes like maybe LAs that rely on a lot of boons for their survivability. This is very strong. You could also run that. Crippling Dissipation, Rending Shatter is the other really big option. That stacks your vulnerability to quite a bit, especially if you're using both your Shatters, F1 and F2. You can ramp up your vulnerability quite a bit, especially combined with your sword auto attack. So this one's another good option. And then if you're not running strict Shatter, you could also bring Illusions deal more damage, but it's really up to you. I like the Greatsword training for now. For my dueling line, I grabbed Blade training to increase decrease the recharge time on my number 2 and 3, especially. For sword, that means that I can get my burst off quite a bit more often because my you rely quite a bit on your 3 of sword for getting off the burst. And then your Blurred Frenzy gives you a lot of survivability and a lot of options, so having a decreased cooldown on that is quite good. If you prefer, you can also grab most of the traits in this minor. Most of these blue traits are pretty good. You could also grab Far-Reaching Manipulations for Blink, or maybe Desperate Decoy if you're really finding you're dying pretty frequently. That's the great thing about Mesmer, is a lot of things are up to preference. There's as many builds as there are players, so there's a general framework, but there's a lot of room for wiggle room, and I'm constantly switching out traits and slot skills. And then finally in this line, I've got Deceptive Evasion. This is essential for Shatter builds just because it really ups your clone production time. Alright, and then in illusions, I grabbed 1 for an increased crit chance on Mind Rack. And then I also grabbed Confusing Cry. You could also in this, for this trait, you could also grab either, well, not Confusion, but you could grab right here, recharge all your Shatter skills when it drops below 50%. This really increases your survivability because it gives you another distortion when you start getting lower on health. So that's very strong. So I would go with one of those two. I really do like Confusing Cry though, because you're going to be using your F2 Shatter whenever your F1 Shatter's off cooldown. And just by using this this skill alone, you can maintain 100% uptime of Retaliation, because each clone that gets shattered, including yourself, you're going to be getting 5 3/4 seconds of Retaliation, meaning that you can, just by using this Shatter every time it's up, you can maintain 100% uptime of Retaliation, which is really, really strong. You don't want to be getting hit much in the first place with Shatter because you're very, very squishy. It's a glass build. But if you do, then you have Retaliation on you, so that's very, very good. And then finally, Illusionary Persona gives you the Shatter effect on you as well. Very important for Shatter builds. One last thing on the weapons, you could run Sword main hand on both weapons. You could run Sword main hand and then change your offhand so that you always have Sword main hand equipped. That's another option. I just really like running the Greatsword, especially in roaming situations, because having that ranged ability to kite while your sword burst is on cooldown, that gives you a little bit of room for error, being able to kite around. For my heal, I'm using Aether Feast. This is up to preference, but I like this with Shatter builds because Signet of Aether is really better for Phantasm builds because your illusions aren't going to be up the whole time. You could also run Mirror or Mantra. It's up to preference, but I'm running Aether. I'm running Decoy, Blink. I would say these are pretty essential to build because that's going to give you another clone production and then quite a bit of survivability. These just work really well for confusing whoever your opponent is and giving you a lot of options. This third utility slot, you can bring whatever you want. I'm bringing Mantra of Resolve for condition cleanses. I also run either Feedback, Portal. Those are really good if you're running with allies, especially Portal. You can set it up on your mini-map. You can set it up and then have a retreat option with that. Sometimes I run Veil just to give me a couple moments to take a breather while I'm waiting on my heal to come off cooldown. Null Field is also a really good option. If you really, really want to make your burst as potent as possible, bring Mantra of Pain, and you should be able to kill most targets immediately with Mantra of Pain. Unless you're in mode. Oh, there we go. Yeah, Mantra of Pain really ups your burst. And then if you just can't decide what to bring, Signet of Inspiration is good. You don't have to think about it. Just leave it alone and it'll give you buffs every now and then. And then for your elite, I'm bringing Mass Invisibility. Again, just for some options, a little bit of survivability, maybe a stealthy engage, disengage, but you can bring Moa is really good for dueling situations. Time Warp is pretty good, but it's much better for organized groups. It seems the cooldown kind of seems like a waste just for you, but it's up to you. And then if you're human, Hounds of Balthazar is awesome too. All right, let's see if we can get some good roaming clips.